And one thing after another happened to him.
I couldn't do anything to help him.
I didn't know what to do, you know. It's like I'm gonna lose my dad.
One of those things where I would just take it day by day, but it was scary.
That's a life-threatening condition.
This is a deadly disease.
Death rate from such a condition is relatively high.
What do I do? Where do I go from here?
Welcome to The Incurables. I'm Don Wildman. The ability to handle adversity is one of the truest measures of a man. As Nietzsche said, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. If his maxim is correct, Andy Aubin must possess Herculean strength. Andy has always been a stoic man, content to shoulder whatever burdens life presents him without complaint. But when troubles continue to stack up, one on top of the other, even the strongest among us grows weary under the weight. Andy Aubin has been knocked down more than a few times. As you will soon see, it is a testament to this man's amazing fortitude that he continues to get back up.
Andy spent his early years in the Northern California coastal town of Eureka. His mother and father owned a clothing store there, but when Andy was 5, the Great Depression took just about everything his family had. So the Aubins moved to the Sonoma Valley to live with Andy's uncle and start a chicken farm. It was a difficult life for a young boy, but Andy was quick to recognize the benefits of hard work, and even more importantly during these tough times, the value of a strong and loving family.
Well, we were the poor people. When the school every year around Christmas time would collect food for the poor, and we were the ones that received it. But I didn't know I was poor. I just had fun with my brothers and sisters. We thought it was great to get a big box of food around Christmas time.
After a dozen years working on his uncle's farm, Andy graduated from high school and enrolled at Cal Berkeley, where he majored in chemistry. Upon graduation, he attended theology seminaries in San Francisco and New York, but ultimately decided against a minister's life. Instead, Andy became a teacher at a school in Santa Cruz, California. It was there that he was introduced to the first love of his life.
The way we met was interesting. I was teaching school, and the cook of my school, she said that she had a friend of hers that would be ideal for me for a wife. And I thought, oh no, one of these. And when I looked at her, I said, this is going to be my wife.
In short order, Andy and Rowancy were married. They spent some time in nearby Watsonville, but on a whim, Andy moved his family to Sedona, Arizona, where he would build their dream house.
And I built the house pretty much on my own.
I just remember as a kid when he was building it, I was out there helping him. I was only a couple of years old, 1 or 2 years old. They got pictures of me helping with the bricks.
After a wonderful decade in the desert, life as he knew it began to unravel for Andy. News came that his father had collapsed back on the farm in California. Doctors found prostate cancer that had spread to his back. When surgeons went in to remove the tumor, they left his dad paralyzed. Andy got a terrifying glimpse of just how fragile life could be. He would have to be the one the family would lean on.
So I decided I had to move back and take care of him.
His brothers and sisters were living in California, but nobody could uproot their family and help out their parents. So he uprooted us from Sedona, moved us out to California.
That was the sacrifice I made to be with my dad.
We moved into this house, real tight living quarters.
I felt as if we're obligated to take care of our parents. I felt a personal obligation.
Andy was able to keep things together for the most part, but his dad's condition deteriorated and he had a stroke and died. Not long after, Andy's mother died as well. The tragedies for the Aubin family continued when their oldest son was struck and killed by a car while riding his bike. It was almost too much to bear when Andy's wife was diagnosed with advanced pancreatic cancer. The couple tried to fight the disease naturally, but it wasn't enough, and soon she too was gone.
I was extremely lonely. I can't describe how lonely I was. Rowancy and I had been married for about 30 years, and she's part of my life. And Jacqueline, I knew her, that she was a widow. Her husband had died of cancer. And so I just started dating her.
We met 14 years ago, and we've been married 13 years.
I just love having her as a mom.
Jacqueline's love and encouragement would prove critical when Andy was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Having watched his dad suffer paralysis from surgery, Andy was leery of Western doctors. Then he began to notice a strange stiffness in his legs. He visited a neurologist who told him he also had Parkinson's disease.
When he first got Parkinson's, I had never heard of it. I didn't really know what it was. I think I just remembered that you shook a lot, you know, your hands trembled, and he didn't have that. So I wasn't really too concerned because Andy's a very stoic person and he doesn't share a lot about how he's really feeling. So I didn't really know that this disease can be debilitating.
You just don't know what to think. You know, my dad said, oh, it's no big deal, but I was pretty shook up.
I didn't know what to do. One of those things where I would just take it day by day, but it was scary.
Things don't shock me. I just felt, well, what do I do? Where do I go from here?
Andy Aubyn's life had been a series of tragedies. He'd lost his father, his mother, his son, and his first wife. As if things couldn't get any worse, now he had been diagnosed with prostate cancer as well as Parkinson's disease.
When Andy and I first got married, he was a very active person. He went to the farmer's market 3 times a week. He gathered all the eggs, he cleaned them, he sorted them. He did the garden, he did the raspberries. He was always puttering around the farm. You know, if something needed to be mended, he would mend it. You know, just very active. That's one of the things that really affected him with his Parkinson's because he couldn't do a lot of that. I did notice that he was trembling a lot more and his hands would shake and, you know, he'd just get really frustrated.
He would say, oh, this just stinks, it's just terrible, and I can't hold my book, and this and that.
At nighttime, he would tremble a lot and he would stay awake trembling a lot, would, you know, keep him awake, and then I would wake up. And you know, it's kind of frustrating because you can't do anything to help them. You know, I learned a lot about it after he got diagnosed. We have a couple at the market whose husband had Parkinson's and he died from it. It really hit home that this is a deadly disease.
Parkinson's disease is a disorder of mobility, and patients develop some stiffness of their limbs. They develop difficulty with walking. Parkinson's disease can progress to a point where you're immobilized enough that you cannot do what you want.
When I realized, you know, that he might get to the point where he wouldn't be able to work on the farm, it was going to change our whole lives, and I didn't know how it was going to affect us. But I just figured that, well, whatever, I'm his wife and I married him for better or for worse, so I'm in it for the long haul.
There are 3 main features of Parkinson's disease. There's tremor, there's rigidity of the limbs, and there's slowness of movement. The slowness of movement is what is the reason that they tend to speak quietly. The slowness of movement is why they're not as expressive. They don't express emotions as well. They generally cannot do the activities of daily living that they could before they had Parkinson's disease.
Dr. Kern recommends 2 medicines which I take, Mrpx and Salivo. But that's the only 2 that I take. I don't want to take drugs. There's a place for them in sometimes, and I don't want to throw it out totally because there is a place for it. But I want the alternatives because I think they're more successful in the long run.
When my mom got sick originally, we started doing alternative medicine with her, but it was pancreatic cancer and there was no way we were able to cure that. So he already had in his mind that he was going to pursue alternative medicine.
Andy was referred to Dr. Isaac Elias at the Amityba Medical Clinic and Healing Center. In addition to Western medicine, Dr. Elias specializes in complementary medicinal practices, such as acupuncture, craniosacral therapy, and herbal therapy.
I was impressed with him, with his knowledge and his ability, because he can feel by your pulse the way your system is working. I just felt he knew what he was doing.
I thought it was great because I believe in stuff like that. I mean, the Chinese have been doing this stuff for 2,000 years, so it's got to work.
When Andy came to me initially for the prostate cancer and the Parkinson, we had to deal with both issues in the same time. But it's very tricky because if someone has cancer, you want to attack the cancer. But we are attacking a cancer in a person who has a significantly debilitating neurological problem. So if you're too aggressive with addressing the prostate, you're going to aggravate Andy's Parkinson.
One of the first tests analyzed Andy's blood makeup. The doctor was shocked to find large amounts of toxic metals coursing through Andy's veins.
And Dr. Elias said, the best thing for me to do would be get the metal out of my system. And so I went to Dr. Landerman, a dentist. He was an alternative dentist. And he removed all of the metal out of my teeth.
Dr. Elias theorized that toxic metals present in the system have a tendency to attack the body's organs. In addition to the dentistry work, Andy took supplements and submitted to chelation therapy to cleanse his body of the harmful materials. Doctors were then faced with the daunting task of treating Andy's cancer with the added complication of the Parkinson's disease.
Patients who have cancer have an increased inflammatory process, an increased amount of free radicals, oxidation going on in their body, and these are both factors that can make Parkinson's worse.
So we had to dance and find a balance between the two. While we were trying to find the balance, we had an unexpected surprise.
While they were formulating a plan to treat these two deadly conditions simultaneously, Andy and Jacqueline's mobile home burned to the ground, and the couple was forced to move in with their son. While there, Andy's colon ruptured. Beyond the extreme pain that caused, Andy's life was in even greater danger.
I found out that I was cancerous on the sigmoid colon, this side, and this side had perforated.
When you have a leakage from the colon, obviously what's inside the colon is not very clean, and it's now moving with toxic bacteria and toxic materials into a sterile area in the body. And you get a generalized infection.
The colon doctor didn't think he was going to live.
Death rate from such a condition is relatively high.
Why him? He eats fairly well, he doesn't smoke, doesn't drink. Why is this all happening to him?
Andy Albin had endured more suffering than one man should ever have to bear. After being emotionally drained by the loss of much of his family to disease and tragedy, Andy is stricken by both prostate cancer and Parkinson's disease. Then, following the destruction of his home by fire, Andy learns that the tumor has spread to his colon, which ruptures from the intrusion. Not yet sure how to treat Andy's original ailments, doctors faced an entirely new and equally deadly development.
Andy had two very big things happen to him. First thing is his house burnt.
In 2003, we had a fire in a mobile home.
One of those portable heaters, and it caught on fire and the house burned.
And it was not livable, so we had to go live with our children across the way because we had no place to stay. Talk about stress. And then 2 days later, we ended up in the emergency room, and that's when they found out he had colon cancer.
In the same time when his house burnt, his colon also burnt. His colon ruptured from metastatic colon cancer, which is a life-threatening condition. Even if you don't die, you often, especially people over 70, you don't get back to where you used to be. The trauma of the severe surgery, of the anesthesia, of being weeks in the intensive care unit, the person cannot regenerate themselves. You see it very, very often.
Surgeons removed the waste from Andy's perforated colon in an emergency procedure and closed this part of his digestive system. The only way Andy could survive was through the use of a colostomy bag. Following surgery, Andy spent 2 weeks in the hospital recovering. As soon as he was released, he went to Dr. Elias to resume his alternative treatments.
And of course, when a crisis happens, we have to help. The colon burst, his house burnt. What do we need to do? We need to put down the fire. Everything is burning. We need to control inflammation. The glutathione pushes becomes the leading thing. The herbs have to be cooling herbs that heal, that take down inflammation, that take down infection. And these are the principles. But really, the art really is how to work with the supplements, how to work with the dosages, how to change them according to the season, how to change them according to the crisis.
During a routine exam to monitor his progress, Andy received what may have been the worst news so far.
3 different lesions showed up in his liver, and it was determined that he has colon cancer with metastasis to the liver. This is stage 4 cancer with very poor prognosis.
The liver cancer was really scary because that, without your liver you can't live. Liver cancer is fatal.
The liver has a very unique feature. It has an amazing regenerative quality. If you cut 70% of the liver out, within 6 weeks it will grow back.
And so we just had the operation, and the doctor said it went great, just went wonderful. And we just have to keep track of it to make sure it didn't come back again.
And I saw Dr. Stanton, and he wanted me to take chemotherapy.
Andy didn't want to do chemotherapy because first it was against his philosophy as somebody who is into more holistic approach, healthy diet, working in nature, being a farmer, but also something in his intuition told him that it's not the right thing for him. He was pressured to do chemotherapy.
I took it twice, and I said, I'm not going to take any more of it. I'll die with the cancer rather than take chemotherapy.
So we had a patient with metastatic colon cancer to the liver who is not going to do chemotherapy, with Parkinson's disease, and with prostate cancer.
With chemo eliminated as an option, all Andy and his doctors could do was commit to the holistic therapies and hope for the best.
He gave me the supplements, acupuncture, the full-fledged alternative system, and it's given me a life and strength. I'm better off than I was 2 or 3 years ago.
A year and a half ago is when he was diagnosed with cancer-free, and all the cancer is out of his body.
It's truly a miracle.
I think he's a miracle too, because I would have never thought he would come through. I mean, I don't know hardly anybody that comes through 3 cancers and be cancer-free 5 years later.
By committing to the treatments recommended by Dr. Elias, Andy had survived 2 major surgeries, Parkinson's disease and cancer in his prostate, colon, and liver. It was a recovery of amazing proportions. But doctors cut him open one more time to reconnect Andy's colon so he could live his life normally without the colostomy bag. He survived this one too.
How is Andy today? And the answer, it's simply a miracle.
He's the exception to the rule, I think, in a lot of cases. He's really beaten the system, so to say.
He's done well from his Parkinson's, and he's done extremely well from his colon cancer.
His colon cancer is basically gone. There is no evidence of the colon cancer. His prostate cancer is completely controlled. His Parkinson is better than it was.
It's very stabilized, and most people wouldn't even know he has Parkinson's.
His mood is better. He can work now more than he could when he came to the clinic first time. His skin looks better. His energy looks better. He's completely functional, and he's happier. You actually can see a smile on his face.
His life is much better, much happier.
Andy, I think, felt strongly that this was the way he wanted to go. And these were right decisions for him.
One of the ladies of the church said, I'm like Job. You know, he had one thing after another happen to him. His children killed, his house burned, one thing after another, and he survived it.
He kept saying, I'm gonna lick this thing. I'm not gonna let it get the best of me. And so I think the inner strength that he had helped him a lot.
I've got a purpose in this life. I've got the things to do. I've got a family to take care of.
I love it when I wake up at 5:45 and he's already out the door.
we have to keep up with him, let's put it that way. With like the barns, he's out painting the barn, and you know, I'm like, Dad, you shouldn't be doing that. he's out there painting, getting on a ladder, going way up, nailing the boards on, you know, broken boards, and he would tell me, he goes, didn't think I'd be doing this, did you, Brian? And I said, nope, I sure didn't. I never would have guessed it.
Andy was focused on the right direction. There was a meeting of the minds, a meeting of the hearts. Amazing things happening. Amazing things happened, specifically for Andy, because if you look, we never used anything dramatic for him.
He's done exceptionally well, and it certainly suggests that combining alternative with conventional medicine is a very valid approach.
But there was some kind of a meeting of the heart. Very simple, beautiful in its simplicity.
Andy Aubyn's amazing recovery from both cancer and Parkinson's disease is a true testament to the success that can be achieved by combining traditional and non-traditional medicine. But his survival is just as certainly a tale of what can be accomplished by the unconquerable human spirit.